Today we're starting the podcast, no brim, hence the dome pieces. We also decided to do no shirt because Blaine is cutting back on the energy bill. So it's about 7,000 degrees down here, hence the waters in Blaine's 7-liter fucking mug of coffee.
Yeah.
Not even sure if you're allowed to curse, but anyway, today starting the podcast off. This is my podcast. Haven't really come up with a name. It might end up being No Brim. Who really knows at the end of the day? But
yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
This podcast is going to be just. It's going to go through a lot of things, but you know the main topics that we're going to talk about are going to be. I got them written down here. It's the first one. A little bit. Don't have it all rehearsed too well, but physical, mental well-being, fitness, nutrition, ego lift again, self-care, personal growth, relationships. It's going to be all those sorts of things. Basically just about like being a healthy living. So like for me, this podcast is definitely goes into the sobriety realm a little bit more than most podcasts probably would. For me, I'm 2 years, 8 months ish sober now, and I've been kind of really wanting to do a podcast like this for a long time, and so here we are making it. And it's going to be a lot about like preaching the truth, doing putting your mind to things and just getting stuff done. And I thought, who else better to have than none other Blaine motherfucking Aaron.
Thanks, brother.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, brother.
So name's Blaine Dekovich. Nick and I go back to about kindergarten. We were 4 or 5 years old. Been best friends ever since. Live right down the road from each other.
That's what he thinks.
Nothing's changed. Graduated from high school in 2019 with Nick from a local public school in our area.
Stoga.
And went to Penn State for a little while, about a year. Left during COVID, worked, went back to school. I'm at a local community college now, hoping to be at Villanova in the spring. But that's me. On the side, I work as a bartender and server for a local country club as well. And that's pretty much it. We keep it simple around here.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy.
And so, again, the reason why I got Blaine on today is it's been a long time coming, the journey through sobriety, the journey through being honest with yourself, trying out new things, getting stuff done. And so, one of the reasons why I brought him on is because Blaine here is a very dedicated individual, been hit with a couple of setbacks in life, always comes back. So, on that note, for me, sobriety and sort of where I want to take this podcast and where I'm at in life, sobriety is all about, being honest with yourself and sticking to a plan and just telling yourself, one day at a time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I really take that to heart. And so, for me, it's an everyday thing. It's a matter of life and death. Truly, for me, I got to stay sober. But so, my first question to you, Blaine, is sort of like, how do you define sobriety or, mixing in healthy living in your daily routines?
Well, I think a healthy living is definitely necessary for everybody in life. Now, getting to the point of sobriety, I think that's something that everyone should at least try out at least once in their life. It opens many, many doors. When you're not drinking, smoking, doing whatever what you do, and you're truly sober with yourself, you really learn a lot about yourself, especially over time. I had a couple setbacks, as Nick said. I spent a little time of my life sober, and I learned the most about myself then than I ever have before. I got into the gym, started reading. I really got dedicated into school and working, and it was really something that I felt is necessary. It's something that I feel like everyone should go through at least once in their life. And then delving in more into the healthy lifestyle type of things, I think that's another thing. It's very important to be healthy, take care of yourself. You want to have a future without everyone wants a future without struggle, and struggling with health it's something. It's like almost like an epidemic in the United States. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean the numbers don't lie. You look at the numbers for overdose deaths in the U.S. I mean, it's pretty astonishing. Like the numbers that it's taken throughout the last couple of years, especially with COVID. And it's it's not just the deaths you look at. It's a trickle down effect here. You got a lot of people that are, addicted to alcohol, addicted to other drugs that don't die in a year. And so there's kind of that relationship. I don't have all the facts, but the more deaths, usually those other things kind of follow as a byproduct. And Just back to what you were saying about like spending some time sober, I'm kind of like, for people who do not take sobriety as like, you know, for me, I was a very avid supporter of making fun of people who were sober or who would go on a break. I was like #1 person who would make everyone around me drink. Blaine was case study 1 of a person who got to see that in live action. And so my question to you is sort of off of that, how do you find the ability to have maybe genuine experiences or have fun experiences while in those states of sobriety? Even if it's just a small bout, even if it's just you only drink 1 day a week for a couple of months as opposed to drinking 4 days a week.
Yeah, no.
You know, just things like that. How do you mix it all together?
It's definitely a lot. If you're going completely sober from drinking, smoking, and then you just cut it cold turkey, I feel like it's definitely going to be a blow. At first, it's going to...
So how do you find the fun and the genuine maybe experiences? Like, what do you find through that?
Well, you gotta, I feel like you gotta really, that's where like finding yourself, like me, learning about yourself really came into play. I really found out like when you're sober, it's not, all right, like I got nothing to do, at least I can go out drinking, or I have nothing to do, I'll just go smoke.
Right.
Like if you're cutting that out, you have no options. You really gotta.
What's that saying go like, idle hands is the devil work, something like that?
Something.
So my mom always said.
No, I don't know.
It's just about like getting busy with stuff that actually matters. Because when you're sitting there bored, boredom is like that's a pretty big killer in itself.
I agree.
Besides just destructive behaviors.
I agree, and yeah, like really when you have no like oh I'm just gonna go smoke or drink, you don't have that option. That really incentivizes you, unless you just want to sit around and do absolutely nothing. But I feel like no one wants to sit around and do absolutely nothing. Everyone wants
their
to
whole life, you mean, right?
Yeah. And like you're gonna have to take. I don't know. When I was sober, it got to a point. It was a week, 2 weeks went by. I was just doing I was not drinking, smoking, but I was doing nothing. It got to the point I was like, this is like I wake up every day. There's no purpose, no point. Like I need to find something to do. So I ended up getting into the gym. That was the start. And I got into the gym. And after about a week, 2 weeks, I really liked it. I started to see some very, very minuscule slight changes in strength. That really pushed me to keep going, and I've been doing it for, how long, like 3 years, something like that now. And now, obviously, that's not like a big thing. A bunch of people are in the gym, but that was just the start for me. That was the first step in the right direction. Now, from there, I delved into many different things. Like I tried a little bit of music, seeing my talent there, had none, absolutely atrocious, so I dropped that. I mean, you can always work at something, but God, there was no fixing that atrocity. So I threw that to the curb, but I picked up reading. Now that was something more or less recently, but I feel like that is something that is key.
So sort of like something that I'm hearing here, that I'm picking up what you're laying down is like, you know, through being sober, and not even necessarily all the time, but in those moments of sobriety or in those moments of cutting back, you were able to find and take yourself out of those bored moments to then go and find things that were fulfilling.
Absolutely.
And then you eventually kept stacking those things so that your moments of being bored actually end up decreasing.
Exactly, yeah.
So then you have less of a chance of falling victim, you know, to the sort of mainstream like flow that you see, where it's just like, let's go get obliterated 5 days a week, 4 days a week.
Yeah, 3 days a week.
You fill your time with these other things that are actually fulfilling and you can get better at progressively. You're going to start realizing that these things actually matter. Where does getting obliterated get you?
It just runs your pockets and gets you absolutely
runs your
nothing.
pockets.
You wake up the next morning.
I mean, you'll make some friends, right?
Yeah,
but like,
sure, but if you remember.
If you're even, and it's like, who are those friends really? You know, I mean, I still have friends of mine who drink all the fucking time. I mean, you know, there's a reason why I'm sober. Like, I was around that crowd. I was a full influencer in that crowd. Like, that is who I was. I was a full-time boozer, full-time using drugs all the time. That was me. And that still is something that sticks with me. You know, it's something that sticks with me every day. And I just gotta, you know, just tell myself day at a time and over time, I've just sort of found these things like the more meaning that you were talking about. You know, those things to fill in those gaps that might make you bored.
Yeah, absolutely. And it even stems deeper than just like a physical boredom. Like it's a mental.
And so with that, with the mental thing, like what I'm wondering your take on is how do you fare with sobriety or light using, or just at least like moderation and understanding of your use, you know, to a point where it's not just absolutely belligerent. Okay, so how do you take those challenges, right? Because you said it, you know, it's not easy.
No, not at all. Absolutely.
But how do you take those challenges and sort of how do they fit in with other challenges in life? Do you see parallels? Do you not see parallels? What do you think about that?
Like with the challenges of being being sober,
having to be vulnerable in your own mental state, because that's a big thing with being sober. Is like those moments when you want to drink are usually moments when you're feeling vulnerable. There's a lot of times, obviously, where you just want to go have fun, right?
Yeah.
But then it comes to a certain point when you're doing it most days of the week where it's like, you know, is this really all about just having fun? There's probably some things that are lingering in the back of your mind.
Absolutely, yeah.
That are making you keep coming back to this.
Fighting your own.
I can speak from personal experience, and I know that you probably can too. So I'm wondering, those moments of vulnerability in your head from having to be sober, how do you see that play out in maybe, you know, lifting, reading, college?
Oh, well, definitely. So if you want to look at it from a lifting aspect, I mean, it's like a scientific fact. Like you go, you work out, when you're done, your brain is releasing dopamine from the exercise. You feel great. And that was one thing initially. You get almost like a natural high.
This is when you said we should start the podcast right after a gym session.
Exactly, yeah.
This dude's fingers firing off like a Gatling gun when he's after the gym. And same thing.
And it's like it's your own. When I spent my time, when I got and I had my own battles and I stopped drinking and smoking for a while, you become addicted from you can get scientific with it. It releases dopamine in your brain. You like dopamine, yada yada. But you need to find other ways to fulfill that. And at first, the gym was like a physical fulfillment and like a slight mental high, you know. And if you're fighting, and it's a great outlet for stress. Like, I think it's a great outlet for anxiety, anger, especially. Take it out on the weights.
Yeah, you know, something that's sort of parallel with what you're saying there with alcohol and everything that goes in with these sort of long-term fulfillment things that you use to fill in the boredom.
Yeah.
Like what you were just saying about that release that you get when you're in the gym. Really what you notice is that even though drinking will give you that super huge rush of dopamine, it of course crashes. And it then usually, almost always, will not lead to much. But then when you take those little doses of dopamine stacked across multiple disciplines in your life, you'll notice that like your regulation, your overall well-being,
you're just an overall happier
and stable,
and
happier and stable person.
Yeah, and when you mentioned like how does reading come into play? I think reading comes in. It's a great distraction for the mind. Like if you're physically tired, but you have.
But what's happening as well? Not only is it distraction, but
you're using your cognitive
man, you're getting smarter.
Yeah, absolutely,
straight up,
absolutely. And
when you're boozing, you're getting that dopamine rush, but you're not getting smarter.
Where the connections being made, the thoughts really coming.
When you're reading, you're getting smarter. When you're lifting, you're getting stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are two things I feel
when you're working,
everybody should do. Getting money. I feel like working
when you're
as well.
in school. Whatever you even call that. Getting a diploma is a little bit dicey. So what does that really get you?
We'll see.
But it is that whole process, the small dopamine release throughout. You get a good grade freshman year.
Oh, absolutely.
How much is that really?
That's huge. You get a good grade. Let's go booze!
It's huge. Okay, yeah. It's huge, but in reality, though, it's not that huge.
No, not at all.
It's sort of like a small dose, but then those small doses end up with a 4x12, 12x12 inch piece of paper. It says that you're a graduate.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like those are three things that everyone should do: is work, make that money, definitely got to read, expand on your mind, expand on your intelligence, and work out. Be a healthier individual. Now, just because you work out, you could be eating like garbage doesn't mean you're necessarily getting healthy.
And you know what?
Definitely take diet into it as well. I think eating clean, working hard, working out, and reading are like 3 to 4 things. I guess you could stack working out and working hard together.
It's like the topics that I brought up in the beginning, sort of like the whole encompassing realm that I want to have in this podcast anyway.
Yeah,
All those things.
I feel like those are I feel like those are the necessary things that everyone should be doing. Now, granted, not everyone's going to be doing that, or everyone does that, but I feel like those are what everyone should be doing, constantly, consistently, every day, daily basis. Read a little bit. It's not going to be much, 10, 15 pages.
Especially people in our age, like, we're not ignorant. We know people have stressful lives, and it might look enticing to just go home and slam down a couple of brews, or you don't have time to go to the gym, you don't have money to go to the gym. Obviously, these things are all known. But if you like those 4 things that you took, I feel like most people can at least work on one of them.
At least, not like as Nick said many times, it's a day at a time, bro. What's the build in a day? You don't have to do all 4 at once. Like, all right, I gotta go to the gym after work, and then right before bed I'm gonna read, and I'm gonna change my diet.
I'm waking up at 5 a.m. now.
Yeah, you can't. It's
you
not.
do all that, you'll be done by Wednesday.
You can't go. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. You'll start Monday, be done by Tuesday. You can't. You have to take it one step at a time. Tackle one thing every day. Tackle a little bit of working out. Get into it. Once you're into a rhythm, and that's becoming a part of your daily life, then pick up reading.
You know what it says? That kind of brings all this together, like something that we're taught in AA and NA, Alcoholics and Narcotics Anonymous. One of the things that we're taught is that here we go with a little brain fart here. Oh, being sober doesn't make life easier, makes it manageable. Life didn't become easy for me when I went sober. Everyone's sort of like, the whole mindset is like, oh, well, life must be a piece of cake now. You must be able to like get so much done. You are gonna get in such better shape. Like, to be honest, I got pretty fat when I first became sober. My addiction just switched. My mind wasn't really strong, especially in the first year of sobriety. I mean, the first 6 months of full-blown sobriety for me were actually pretty tough. Were very tough. And so, we're not telling you or anyone that we're gonna make life easier.
Yeah,
if you take anything from this episode, do not take that we're here to make your life easier. We're just here to make life manageable.
Yeah, and hopefully better. Hopefully, but not
hopefully
not
better. Right, obviously.
Sobriety's it's going from addiction with a substance to just cold turkey sobriety. It's like it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I had to cut for my time sober, what I had to do was I had to move away, get off all social media, and cut absolutely everybody I was friends with, knew, and loved off. I had to sectionate myself, and that's not even a word, but I had to pull myself.
Sounded like one to me.
I had to pull myself from the world and be in solitary. The only person I saw was my dad, my stepmom, and occasionally my younger brother. That was it. I was alone for months. And then when I was ready to go back out, it was much different. But at first, like being alone, someone who, as Nick knows, I think I'm a pretty social individual. I think I'm always talking to somebody, doing something. To just nothing, nobody. Obviously, there are people I could reach out to. I could have reached out to Nick, but I didn't. I had to be alone.
Yeah.
Because I knew if I wasn't alone, I'd fall back into my old ways.
And that's a big maturing thing. I mean, it's finding out who you are.
Exactly.
Getting uncomfortable or getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Sort of thing.
Yes, that's another huge thing is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
And you haven't figured it all out. Like,
not even remotely close. I still have no idea. Like I still have some time before
you probably
I graduate.
get bagged when you're not hanging out with friends. If it ends up being a long time.
FOMO. Yeah. When everybody goes down the beach and I'm still here.
Yeah, it's not like it's gonna be you. Okay, you get sober and then for 3 months you don't see anyone, and now you're like a guru and you're like Yoda and you can go chill in the woods for 5 years.
That's not at all how it works, but
exactly.
And
but now it makes more and more of life's difficulties recognizable. Mm-hmm. So the next time that it happens, you're kind of a little bit more prepared. You can sort of react and pivot off of things, and maybe you can be like, okay, 2 years ago I was in this similar scenario. How did I react? How did it end up? And then you go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got exactly. It's like you got to take it as a. I took mine. Well, that's what I was saying initially. Like it's hard. It's hard. Going into sobriety is hard.
Yeah, it can be
And
super scary. I mean, there's
yeah.
the people that I see at AA and NA, like, you know, a lot of the people are over the age of about, I would say, like, usually about over the age of 40. It's very, very uncommon to see people our age in these meetings.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that I struggle with a little bit is that idea of, like, well, do I really need to be in these meetings if everyone here is older? But one of the encouraging things that I have been through is that a lot of these older people will come up to me after the meeting and be like, man, if I did what you did 30 years ago when I was your age, I can't even imagine where I would be today, you know? And that really stuck home with me throughout all these years as a good reminder for me of, you know, what this means in my own personal case. You don't have to be sober every single day of your life. Again, not the point. But, you know, sobriety it's a cool thing that I think a lot of people in our generation maybe don't really take as a cool thing.
No,
straight
not
up.
at all. I absolutely.
Dude, you knew me.
Yeah.
You know me.
Yeah.
Like, before I was sober, dude, rip into the idea of being sober for a weekend. That wasn't even a comprehensible idea. The only reason I was ever sober was if I had something I had to do the next day. If I had a football game the next day, all right, fine, I won't booze tonight. That would basically be the only reason. Baseball, throw it back.
Yeah.
But then it was like,
Yeah, dude, years. We were doing everything in our power.
oh yeah, dude.
Everything in our power. We drive 25 to 30 minutes just to get a case.
I would drive like 45 to an hour to get like whatever drug I could find.
Yeah.
Got me in a lot of dicey scenarios. And then you realize that sort of living is very, very superficial.
Shit, dude. We had a little bit.
Do you want to do that last question again? So we had a little technical error. I have about 75,000 fucking million photos, and so ran out of storage. And me and Blaine were filming that entire time to no avail because there was no camera picking it up. So
yeah. What did I ask you? You being alone? Something about you being alone in Europe? Like how did that sobriety in Europe? How did that?
Oh yeah, being alone. Like my answer to that is. Like so basically your question was how did you find sobriety being alone, and I guess like your implication is sort of what have you found in yourself through sobriety by getting off that little racetrack, you know, the wheel, when you got off the wheel and you looked around in the world, what did you say? I don't know, whatever. But the thing is I'm a pretty sociable person like you know. And so I like being around people, and one of the things I would say is even in my moments of being alone, I would constantly be finding myself associating myself with like-minded people. I started really, because I really believe the saying, you are who your friends are, you are who you surround yourself with on a day-to-day basis. If you're around something so much, you know, it's only inevitable that you're going to end up being more and more like that. So what I found is that when I could sit down in my own presence and be in myself, I could find out what I wanted. And then once I know what I want, I could then find people who want the same thing. And then I ended up hanging around more people that were like that. So, you know, going to AA meetings, NA meetings, the outpatient thing that I did. People like, you know, I'm not going out on Saturday night. So what am I going to do on Saturday nights? Well, you know, I'm a sociable person. So a lot of times I'll find people on Saturday nights who are also not going out. So it's more that by being alone, I could find better ways of
not being alone.
Yeah, exactly. Better people to be with, not being alone. And you know, not sure if we touched on the topic of what I learned being sober, the whole humility rant that I went on.
I think that might have gotten cut as well. So go with that. Yeah, pick up with that.
But
we
yeah,
lost like 20 minutes.
It was like, what did I learn from being sober? You know, one of my big key takeaways, and one of them was humility.
One of the questions I asked is like, what would you have you learned in life that streamed from sobriety that you would not have learned or experienced if if you weren't sober.
Right. So that was the one where I went into a whole rant about, like, I wouldn't have been able to go abroad. I've been abroad for the past 11, almost 12 months. Just got back a couple days ago, and I would have never been able to do that if I was still using. And then, I don't think I would have been alive right now if I was continuing on the path. I had some near-death experiences a couple of times that I got really lucky. Something up there is looking out for me, because there was some times where really could have all ended. And so what I've learned from that experience is humility and being able to come clean with your issues in life. Because when I first became sober, like, one of my biggest fears about sobriety was like, oh, what is everyone going to start thinking about me now? What are my family going to think about me? How am I going to just completely change my way of life? Because for me, it really had to be a change of life. I had to really reevaluate. And that's not the message that I'm preaching for everyone. It's, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you how it is for me. I had to completely change my entire life. I had to change who I hung out with, my day-to-day activities and everything, to be able to maintain a new frame of mind. But because of that humility, I've been able to sort of see things in a way that I definitely couldn't have before. Like, when people say that they have a problem, I'm, instead of less dismissive, that was one of my character defects, I guess you could say. Is like, somebody says they got a problem, I'm like, you don't have a problem, it's all in your head. But I can understand now and see where people are coming from when they say something like, I got depression, I got anxiety, I got bipolar, I got this, that,
Yeah, no.
And so
absolutely.
those vulnerable people, when they say things like that, I understand, because I'm also a part of that group,
Yeah, I
And
noticed.
just because you're vulnerable doesn't mean that you're weak.
That's.
Matter of fact, I think it makes you stronger. I
Being
feel
able
more
to open
confident in who
yourself
I
up.
am
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, everyone closes himself in, builds a wall. To be able to knock that wall down and open yourself up is something that's like
People like being around
courageous almost, nearly,
Yeah.
especially in today's day and age. Everyone's criticizing one another online, yada yada, this, that. Everyone cares what everyone thinks, but to be able to open yourself up and expose yourself to not only the people around you, but the world, with this,
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of
And
the
I was
biggest
lucky
steps
I got to
you
go
take.
abroad, so I got to also sort of spread the vibes.
Yes, spread the joy.
Spread the joy, baby, more life.
But I noticed how you said something about perspective on things.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that has changed for me as well. Looking at everything, I used to look at everything that happened to me in a negative output, oh God, why is this happening to me? Woe me,
Been there.
rather than looking at it all right, how can I make this situation better? Instead of looking at it damn, my glass is half empty, it's half full, it's that's a pretty commonly used phrase, look at everything glass half full rather than half empty, but definitely look more on the positive side. People, the big manifesting and putting your thoughts out there and really believing in yourself is something that's really caught traction recently. I didn't even know what manifesting even really was until the last 3 years. Manifesting this, that,
Yeah.
telling yourself on a constant.
I don't even really know if I'm fully bought in yet, but
No, I don't even know.
understand
I
some
don't
of
even know if I am
principles.
either. But yeah, you just gotta. You have to look at everything positively. You have to look at everything from a positive outlook. If you're looking at everything negatively, you're just gonna be a negative person.
Yeah. And then
Bring
life's
everything
brutal.
down.
Nobody wants to be around you, and you think nothing's possible.
Exactly. I feel perspective in life is everything. It really dictates where you're gonna go and who you are. As you said, if you're a negative person, looking down all the time, woe me, glass empty. Like you said, no, who wants to be around a Debbie Downer? Nobody. Everybody wants to be around someone who's joyful, cheers everybody up, always a good time.
Our boy Jace. What up, J-Ball?
J Money. Literally, you need. I had to get rid of those. You need to have a positive outlook in life. I feel in everything. Hey, you didn't get the job? All right, maybe that job was not meant for me. All right, what can I do better?
It all works out in the end. You gotta try to tell yourself that.
It all works out in the end.
Even
long
if
as you put in the work. at least some.
Even if you gotta kind of just trick your brain in the beginning, you know, just tell yourself it'll work out. Because I mean, you know, you're still breathing.
Yeah, you're still alive.
Still got your health.
Yep.
Whatever stage you are at, hey, you can always be worse. That is a fact.
Always, and yeah, you could always be worse. Like it's
everyone that's alive, it could always be worse because you could be dead. That's the ultimate end.
You could be dead. Yeah.
That's the ultimate worst case scenario. So I mean, if you're still breathing, you still got a lot to be grateful for. I feel like.
I agree. Like life is a gift. Being able to, I'm very fortunate for the family I was born into, the area I was born.
The amazing friends that he has.
Absolutely, friends, family, the area I've been born, like the gifts I've been given and I've received throughout my life, like the education. It's just in a broad aspect, like having the ability to have parents that work hard and do well. Life has been so far, like, and I may not have seen it initially, but now I definitely have an appreciation and realization that life has been pretty much a walk in the park. And like, realistically, like, I don't have to come home and worry about my electric bill or my water bill. I don't have to worry about not having food at night. I don't have to worry about a roof over my head. You know what I mean? That's something that I feel like I'm definitely grateful for. But yeah,
the little things, man. You can get it. Everybody. I mean, the richest people in the world can still bitch and moan, you know, and you'll see the poorest people in the world smiling ear to ear, and that boils right down to the perspective, like what we were talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, appreciating the little things in life, you know.
Yeah, you know, I really do appreciate things like just being able to drive my car, being able to go and hang out with friends. Like, these are things that I wouldn't maybe necessarily be able to do if I was continuing on the path that I was on, for me. And it's a lot of things that people can't even really do in a lot of parts of the world, like having your own car. It's a hard thing to do, but you know, anyway, we've hit a lot of topics. We've discussed a lot. It's getting quite philosophical. Yeah, we've been grinding through. I mean, we lost a ton of footage on that last one. I mean, that's still fresh on our minds. That was a tough blow.
That was like 20 minutes worth of shit.
So, I mean, basically, at the end of the day, it's the end of the day, and you know, we got some of our sayings, right? You said we were going to break down some sayings.
Yeah, just
key takeaways. Key
takeaways from today's episode. Featuring yours truly. I guess one thing I would take away, and anyone should take away from, if you're watching this, what you should take away from this is like, it's 1% every day. Every day is 1%. You start to change your life. It's not gonna take one day, but you take that first step in one day. One step, 1% every day. Just get better. Chip away. You're not gonna get it all done at once. And if you do, you'll be done by Wednesday, right?
Right there. I would say, like, my thing, more or less a piggyback, but it's just like, you gotta find ways to enjoy life. You gotta have fun. You gotta try new things. You gotta try things that you want to do that you've been telling yourself you can't for a long time. This is one of those things for me. This makes me nervous. This makes me uncomfortable. The idea that people are gonna see this. But you know what I said? You know what we said? Let's do it, and let's do it shirtless with no brims.
Shirtless and no.
We're taking the task by the nuts, and we're seizing the moment. We're just doing it. Because at the end of the day, when you're sitting on your deathbed and you're in your own head, what are you going to look back on? Because that is all life will be, is what you can look back on at some point in your life. And in that moment of wanting comfort, you're going to want to be able to say, damn, I've been here for X amount of years, and I did what I came here to do. I did what my brain came up with and said I wanted to do.
No one wants to die with regrets. You don't want to die regretting, wishing you could have done this or that. Just do it.
Just do it.
Do it.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, man, pleasure to have you as guest one. Wouldn't want it any other way. Day one,
I appreciate
end
it.
one, episode one. Like, follow, and subscribe, and go Bird.
Share as well.
Oh, don't forget to share. Hey. Sorry, man. How long is that?